right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So it's Wednesday morning. We're all waking up to a Field Yates mock draft. Field Yates mock draft, right? 1.0 here. It's looking like we don't have to scroll far, right, to break this thing down. He has the New York Jets trading up. And by the way, of course, the mock draft will be listed down below in the description box to check out. But he has the Jets going with Fernando Mendoza at spot number 1, trading up with the New York Giants. Yates goes on to say Mendoza has had a remarkable season at Indiana, showing off excellent accuracy and a powerful arm to pair with the much improved pocket awareness and sack avoidance after the 2 seasons at Cal. He leads the FBS with 33 passing touchdowns this season and just handled an extremely tough test against Ohio State, leading Indiana to its first Big Ten championship since 1967. Man, the Jets are currently 27th in QBR, needing a long-term answer for Aaron Glenn and GM Darren Mougey to cement themselves within the organization. And so Field makes a ton of great points here, a ton of great points. And look, we've been talking about it for months, right, on why Mendoza makes a lot of sense for this Jets team, not only just from a schematic standpoint, but you're looking at the specific traits that Mendoza brings to the table. Quick release, quick decision making, very, very accurate. Again, for months, we've been saying that Mendoza is the most accurate quarterback in college football. For the most part, when we've watched Fields this season, we've seen slow processing times, a slow delivery, right? It takes him a long time to get rid of the football, and accuracy question marks. What are the 3 biggest strengths that Mendoza has? A super quick release, a super quick processor, and a very accurate quarterback. Again, in my opinion, he's the most accurate quarterback in college football. So by just simply swapping those 3 stats alone, or those 3 maybe metrics alone, you would think, okay, in theory, the offense should run smoother, right? An overall decrease in inaccurate passes, the ball getting out quicker, the ball maybe traveling to destinations on the field that make more sense, being able to process what the defense is doing at a faster rate. Again, it makes sense. I do love Mendoza. I've loved Mendoza for a while, and I think his fit with the Jets is awesome. But here's the thing, and it's talking about a potential trade up. Now, Field has the Jets trading the 7th pick and the 18th pick, which is the Colts pick, and a day 2 pick for the first overall spot. If we take a look back at NFL history, based off of the context, right, this would be one of the cheapest packages ever to go from 7 to 1. I just can't see that happening, right? When we look at where we're currently at as, a league, right, understanding the importance of the quarterback position, understanding recent trade ups in previous years, right? Just look at last year. The Jaguars moved up from 5 to 2, right? Not the first overall pick, the second, to go from 5 to 2, that's 3 spots, to draft a non-quarterback, right? At the time, Travis Hunter, wide receiver corner hybrid. Certain teams out there didn't even know exactly how to use Travis Hunter or maybe best maximize his capabilities. But the Jaguars loved him enough to trade up. So again, we're not coming up for a quarterback. We're not even going to the first pick. We're coming up for a bit of a question mark right now. And Cleveland, on the other hand, they're remaining in the top 5. The Jaguars had to give up the 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick at 36, which is a very, very, very high second, and a 4th-rounder. So I can't see the Jets with a bigger gap to cross, right? You have to build a bigger bridge to get, right? You're going from 7 to 1 here, and you're landing the first overall pick, right? Just such a marquee thing to have, marquee thing to possess. And you're coming up for a quarterback in a day and age where there are tons of teams that need quarterbacks. I just think it's going to take more than 2 firsts and a second. I mean, the Jaguars had to give up more than that last year, again, to get to 2. So, again, I think it's right now it's easy, right? The Jets have extra draft capital. If you're doing a bunch of mock drafts, you can just say, okay, yeah, Jets trade up. You can take 18 or the Colts pick, wherever that pick lands, which is projected to be a little bit better, right? The Colts have been on a slide, current 3-game losing streak. Now you're factoring in it's going to be Riley Leonard at starting quarterback, not Daniel Jones, not Anthony Richardson. I don't want to write the Colts completely off and say, yeah, they're horrible. They're going to go 0-4. But I think 0-4, 1-3 is definitely realistic. I don't want to guarantee it, but I think it's leaning that way. Point is, the Colts pick should be getting better, which obviously bodes well in the Jets' favor. But again, you have tons of teams out there that need quarterbacks. So for me, I think it would take a lot more. I think right now it's easy, right? It's December. We're in the midst of college football playoff. We don't even know who the first overall pick is going to. It could be the Giants. It could be the Titans. It could be the Raiders, right? Depending on who has that first overall pick also determines what the package coming back would look like. Because if you're a team like the Titans, there's probably a pretty big push to move out of that pick. Not saying that they would trade out for a discount, right? I think that's relevant to bring up here. But it's pretty safe to say that Tennessee needs a lot of help. But if Tennessee has the first overall pick and they don't need a quarterback and they're making calls to try to move out of the pick, chances are it's not just the Jets that they're going to be calling. It's probably going to be Cleveland. It's probably going to be the Raiders. Probably going to be the Cardinals, right? What exactly is going to be happening with Pittsburgh moving forward? Again, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. Right now in this mock draft, Field has Dante Moore going to the Raiders at spot number 2. In the event that Dante Moore goes back to school along with Ty Simpson, that price for that first overall pick is going to skyrocket. It's going to skyrocket. And we didn't even talk about the potential of the Raiders landing the first overall pick, the Cleveland Browns landing. Look at the Browns' schedule. They can go 0-4, despite Shedeur Sanders playing well. Look at the Raiders' schedule. I think they're going to go 0-4 down the stretch here, right? I mean, the Giants play the Raiders in, I believe, week 17 in Vegas. Geno's hurt. They're rolling out Kenny Pickett. Vegas right now feels like an absolute mess. So, again, for me, I love Mendoza. I love his fit with the Jets. I think he'd be an upgrade. I get it completely. But I just feel like the cost to move up to spot number... Look, if this is all it takes, I would do it. A second... and the extra pick that you got from Indianapolis this year, and then we can roll into 2027 without having to give up any future draft capital, sign me up for that. But I just feel like it's unrealistic again. And I do want to pose a bit of a caution, right? A bit of a warning sign, because I feel like I've seen a bunch of different arguments going both ways. The Jets right now are not a good football team. They have a major talent issue, and they have a major depth issue. What's the quickest, most affordable way to add premium talent? The draft. So there is a question, why take a quarterback this year when A, you have 3 first rounders in 2027, so you can essentially do whatever you want there, but B, you're taking a quarterback, you're dropping him into this roster that needs talent and needs depth. The Jets are a 3-win team right now. We're in mid-December and the Jets have 3 wins. And if we think about the current state of the roster, yes, we have cap space. Yes, we have extra draft picks. But again, 3 wins right now. Our roster, just from a timeline chronological perspective, is going to be getting worse before it gets better. Why? Because Breece Hall's a free agent. Josh Myers is a free agent. John Simpson's a free agent. AVT's a free agent. Tyrod Taylor, a veteran backup quarterback, is a free agent. So we have to go out and fix all of these different spots, right? Like, assuming the Jets re-sign all those guys, we're right back to where we are right now, which is, again, a 3-win team. And so we're kind of seeing what that looks like this season to a degree with the Tennessee Titans, right? Where they drafted Cam Ward, they gave him the starting job. As far as him having like time to sit on the bench and learn and grow, and him having a lot of weapons at his disposal and a defense that can just easily get off the field. We're kind of seeing what that looks like. And the Titans are, this is a team that could very well finish again with the first overall pick. But here's the argument. Bad teams up at the top of the draft that need quarterbacks that take them on talent deficient teams, quote unquote, I want to say a good portion of the time, it works. There are numerous examples of it working out, right? Even in this day and age, right? Look at Caleb Williams and the Bears. Look at Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We can look at Drake May and the New England Patriots. Looking at last season with what Jaden Daniels in Washington was able to accomplish, right? That team was not good. I figured Washington was going to be a 6-7 win team. They made it to the NFC freaking championship game last season. Now, obviously this year, they also have 3 wins. It just feels like the season's spiraling out of control. But it can be done, right? If you're a bad team, you can take a quarterback up at the top of the draft and it all works out. It does. But here's the roadblock. Again, we're circling back to it. It's trading up. How often do you see a bad team, a 3-win team, with major talent questions, with major depth questions, package and mortgage the future to go land a quarterback? The Patriots traded nothing for Drake May. The Texans gave up nothing for CJ Stroud, right? Jacksonville gave up nothing for Trevor Lawrence. So to go back to that question, when was the last time you saw a quote-unquote bad team with a lot of issues trade up to spot number 1, giving up a big package? I would say the closest thing to it was the Carolina Panthers back in 2023, trading 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and DJ Moore for Bryce Young. Right? They shot from 9 to 1. And yes, it does look like they've figured it out right now, but it was a long road. Right, we've gone through we're on head coach number 3, right? Frank Reich was brought in. He was fired. Really that whole staff, right? With Josh McCown and whatnot, gone. You bring in Steve Wilkes. They win a couple games and he's not brought back. Then it's Dave Canales, and Dave Canales doesn't just hit the ground running. There's a full rebuilding year first with Dave Canales. Now we're starting to see those rewards, right? After multiple draft classes were loaded in, after multiple big money free agents were loaded into the roster, and a second year of Canales and his offensive prowess, now we're starting to see Carolina reap those rewards. So I love Mendoza. I love his fit. I would love him on the Jets. But I think it's a bit dangerous for teams that say, hey, we have a lot of needs. Right, we need multiple defensive tackles, we need multiple edge rushers, we need a starting free safety, a coverage linebacker, 1 to 2 wide receivers, 2 interior offensive linemen just to complete the starting unit, not to mention adding 1 depth piece. We're going to need to figure out the backup quarterback position as well as adding someone of Breece Hall's caliber to the offense, right? Whether that's bringing him back or not. You have all those issues and you are gouging into the future. You're cutting into the future with draft capital. You're saying goodbye to it. And by the way, as much as I love Mendoza and I love his fit with the Jets and everything, it's not a foolproof, locked and loaded, hey, this is 1,000% going to work out. There's still the element of, hey, it's the NFL draft. It's not a perfect science, right? At the end of the day, these guys, these general managers who have years of experience, tons of connections, being paid millions upon millions of dollars, and essentially the flexibility to do whatever they want. They can pick up the phone right now and go watch these guys live, right? When the season ends, they can talk to the players. They can interview them. They can bring them to their facility. They can work them out. They can talk to their family. They can talk to their former head coach, right? Really get the backstory, right? Really find out who these quarterbacks are. And they still can't get it right. That's the reality. It's a tough thing to do. It's a hard code to crack. Years ago, I was at a D1 college football practice, and I was walking off the field, and I was talking to the offensive coordinator, and he made a really good quote, right? Because we were chatting beforehand. He knew I was a Jet fan. At the time the Jets needed a quarterback. Probably doesn't narrow down the year here that I'm talking about, but he had a really cool quote. It stuck with me. I forget exactly how he worded it, but it was something along the lines of, not having a quarterback doesn't set you back, but missing on a quarterback does. And so for me to kind of sum this thing up here, if Fernando Mendoza is on the board when the Jets are picking, I'm taking him. I feel pretty good with the body of, yes, of course, combine, yes, of course, measurements. I get it, right? But in my opinion, the way I kind of look at these guys, tape, the college games, the actual, the college football action, that is priority number 1. And based off of what I've seen, I like Mendoza a lot. If he's on the board, I'm taking him. If it's only going to cut... If the Jets can trade the 7, if we can get from 7 to 1 and the only thing we have to give up is pick 18, I'm doing that. I think I would still do that. right? Got to throw in a second round pick as well, but we still have a second round pick. Okay, I'm fine with that too. But when we start saying, okay, we are going to, start wiping this draft class clean, or we're starting to dive into next year's class, right? So maybe it's something like, okay, they're going to get the Colts first round pick this year, one of our seconds this year. We're going to have to give up a first next year and a second next year. More, right? Not even talking about like the day 3 stuff, right? How many 4th rounders would be involved? Because again, if Mendoza's the only guy that declares, the price of this pick will skyrocket. It will. And you have a team in the Browns that has extra draft capital and a coaching staff with immense pressure on them to figure it out. They've had years. They've cycled through tons of guys. They can't get it right. Right? Watson, letting Mayfield go. Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston. Now they're on a Shedeur Sanders. I'm hoping Sanders works out. But, with 4 games left, is that going to be enough to stave off the quarterback discussion for Cleveland? You look at a team in the Raiders, right? This is a team that you could argue, why should they trade up? Right? They have a lot of needs just like the Jets do. But here's the thing with the Raiders. If you look at the past, handful of years with the Raiders, they have actually been aggressive in trying to trade up. Like the Raiders desperately wanted CJ Stroud and they couldn't trade up. They couldn't trade up because the price just got too expensive. They got priced out of it. They couldn't do it. The front office wanted Stroud. Josh McDaniels supposedly didn't want Stroud, which was like another factor in the whole mix. But then you fast forward, and the guy that they really, really wanted was Michael Penix, right? Ultimately, the Raiders ended up drafting Brock Bowers, but Penix was the number 1 target for the Raiders if he was there. They thought he was going to be there. The fact that Atlanta took him at 8 shocked everybody, including the Raiders. And I understand, right? You have Brady in the mix. It's a brand new regime now. I get it. But Mark Davis is still the owner. Mark Davis is involved in these conversations. Could he let another year go by if they say are at 3 or 2? The price to go from 3 to 1 or 2 to 1 is a lot cheaper than going from 7 to 1. And by the way, it's not a guarantee that the Jets will finish at 7. Maybe we're going to be at 4. Maybe we're going to be at 5. Maybe we'll be at 9. Maybe we'll be at 10 if we win 2 games here. I doubt that, but I think the Jets can definitely win at least one of these games. So it's going to be a crazy ride. This offseason is going to be nuts. I cannot wait for it. And yes, the Jets do have cap space, so we can fill in talent there, but that's not how you build. I look at free agency as a supplemental thing, right? You have cap space, you could bring in free agents, add talent, fill needs, add vets, add system fits, cool. But the blood, the DNA of the team, in my opinion, needs to be built through the draft. Because at the end of the day, free agents are not only expensive, and you're paying top dollar for these free agents, but they're later in their careers. They're 29, they're 30, they're 31, they're 32 years old. Because it's very rare that you're going to go out and get a superstar player at 25 years old. Why? Because that 25-year-old superstar is probably just going to re-sign with his original team. Or he's going to be traded in the event where you now have to give up draft capital and pay that player. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.